can actually design these interventions now on computers. We can test them out on computers with biological simulators. These technologies are now in an early stage, but they are information technologies. They therefore will be 1,000 times more powerful in 10 years, 1,000,000 times more powerful in 20 years, and it will be a very different era. Take energy. That doesn't sound like an information technology. And fossil fuels, burning oil and coal, is not an information technology. That's an old industrial technology from the 19th century. But nanotechnology, being able to create new materials and new devices at the level of molecules, is an information technology. That's progressing in an exponential manner. We are now applying nanotechnology, for example, to solar panels. So the cost of collecting solar energy from the sun is coming down very quickly. And the amount of solar energy we are gathering in the world is doubling every 2 years. That's another exponential. And right now it's only 8 doublings away from being 100% of our energy needs. Now you might say, is there really enough sunlight to meet all of our energy needs? We actually have 10,000 times more than we need. If we collected 1 part in 10,000 of the sunlight that falls on the Earth, we would meet 100% of our energy needs. And I recently wrote a report for the National Academy of Engineering in the United States, along with Larry Page, the co-founder of Google, on basically creating an energy plan for the United States and for the world. And we identified solar energy because there's 10,000 times more sunlight than we need to meet all of our energy needs, and it's on this exponential progression. It's doubling every 2 years. That means within 16 years it could meet 100% of our energy needs, and I'll show you these progressions. And I'll show you a few dozen examples of just how predictable and how powerful these exponential progressions are in many different fields. And ultimately it will transform these different areas like health, like energy. And it's actually only these information technologies that have the scale to be able to actually address these very large problems that we face today. The primary application that I use for these predictions is actually to time my own technology projects. I can make predictions about what the world will look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and I can create inventions with the technologies of 20 years from now. I can't build them now, but I can write about them, and that has been the source of material for my books. But in terms of my own technology projects, I use this forecasting to time, when I should begin a project. And that's actually my primary advice to people that are starting projects that use technology. And it doesn't have to be a technology project. Every field now is affected by these advancing technologies. I mean, take music. I just got back from a music conference. It read like a computer conference because all the new music technologies are very computerized. Or graphic arts, that uses computers. Every single field is deeply affected by computers. Education, you can now share ideas with people around the world. It's very important when you plan a project to actually write down what the world will be like in terms of the underlying technologies that will affect your project at each point in time. So we will actually write down, here's what the underlying technologies for our project will look like in January 2009, January 2010, and so on. And we make sure that our projects are appropriate for what the world will be like. And the world will be surprisingly different very quickly. People just kind of assume that things are going to keep on going the way they are. But think back even just 5 or 6 years ago. Most people didn't use search engines. Imagine life without search engines. That sounds like ancient history. That was only 5 or 6 years ago. Or social networks, or blogs, or wikis. All of these technologies are only 3 or 4 years old. So the world will again be a very different place, because the pace of change is getting faster and faster. So let me give you one example of a technology that we developed using this forecasting method. I've been involved with reading machines for the blind for 35 years. In 1976, I created the first print-to-speech reading machine for the blind, and it was the size of a washing machine. And over the years, just like all electronics, it got smaller and smaller and more capable. But in 2002, it was still a device that sat on your desk. And a blind person or a dyslexic student would have to bring printed material back to their desks in order to read it. And so I would give speeches at technology conferences for the disabled, and I would predict someday a blind person will be able to take a device out of their pocket and read all the printed material as they go through the day. Handouts in meetings like this one, signs on the wall, bank ATM displays, menus at a restaurant. So in 2002, the head of the National Federation of the Blind asked me, said, Ray, you've been talking about a reading machine for the blind that fits in your pocket for many years. When is this going to be feasible? So I said, well, according to our models of cell phone technology and digital cameras and portable computers, we'll have the hardware to support this application in 6 years, 2008, second quarter to be exact. So he said, okay, how long will it take to develop the software? And I said, well, we have to develop a new layer of software. We have to do more than just put the character recognition and speech synthesis in the cell phone. We need a new layer of software because as the blind person holds the device, images might be rotated or tilted. There'll be uneven illumination. The images will be curved. And I mentioned various problems with trying to capture devices with a handheld device, particularly by someone who doesn't see. And he said, okay, I understand. How long will it take? I said about 6 years. So he said, okay, let's get started. So we got started in 2002, even though the hardware to support this application was nowhere in sight. And people, in fact, were skeptical whether we would really see it in 6 years. Some people said it's going to be 20 years before we see this. And sure enough, this past year, 2008, hardware powerful enough for this application became available. We got the software done on time, and we introduced this device, and there's now over 1,000 blind guys and gals going around taking pictures of documents at meetings like this and signs on the wall and reading all the print as they go through the day. And this now actually reads in 16 languages, translates from one language to another. So let me give you a little demonstration of how this works. And it's also a cell phone for the blind, and as well as a email reader, reads the web. It's a GPS navigation system for the blind, all in the voice output. And it, as you can hear, tells you what it's doing. So I'll tell it now to read English, and I'll read an English document, and then I'll read you a Spanish document.
Ready to shoot. Taking picture.
It will actually tell the blind person where the print is. If he just holds it up against the wall, it'll tell him if there's a sign up there. If he's cutting off the left part of the sign, he should move to the left. It'll rotate the image any amount. And it will display what it's reading on the screen. So,
my own story is instructive. More than 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The conventional treatment made my condition worse, so I approached this health challenge from my perspective as an inventor. I immersed myself in the scientific literature and came up with a unique program that successfully reversed my diabetes. In 1993, I wrote a health book.
So I was just reading you from this book. This is a book I wrote called Singularity is Near, and it was telling you about actually a health condition that I overcame with my own program. And I'll now read you a document in Spanish. So first I'll tell the device that I'm reading Spanish.
Settings loaded. Ready to shoot. Taking picture.
It displays what it's reading on the screen, so a dyslexic student who can see but can't read can actually read along with the device, and that actually helps build their reading skills. So it tells me it was rotated, but it will automatically rotate the image for me.
Singularidad tecnológica de Wikipedia, la enciclopedia libre en futurología. La singularidad tecnológica, algunas veces llamada simplemente la singularidad, es un evento futuro en el que se predice que el progreso tecnológico y el cambio social aceleran.